Hi, this is Terry on It's About Writing. And today I have author Allison Mackey,
Hello.
and she has written a middle grade novel, The Edge of Everywhen. And it's a wonderful story. I've read it, it's so good.
Mhm.
Allison, why don't you tell us about your work, your writing, and then, yeah, you can show us your book again, too.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Well, thanks so much for having me, Terry. It's very exciting to be here. Yeah, this is my debut middle grade fiction novel called The Edge of Everyone. And yes, I cried when I got the cover from the publisher. I thought it was such a beautifully done illustration. Um, I've been writing since I was about 8 years old, but I'm 52 now, and I didn't take it seriously and spend time on it um, until probably 8 or 10 years ago. I started really getting serious about it. Some of that was because of confidence, lack of confidence,
mm,
and some of it was just raising family and time and prioritizing. And so I started doing NaNoWriMo. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, National
oh,
Novel
yeah.
Writing Month.
Mm-hmm.
That really became a catalyst for me. I started doing that 11 years ago, and every year I would write a novel. And the first one was a mystery
Really?
novel, and they never really went anywhere. It was more of honing my skills, I guess, writing regularly and coming up with the. I'm a big fan of outlines, coming up with the outlines all summer long or early in the fall, and then doing that thing in November. And so in 2015, I had this concept for this book and did the NaNoWriMo. And it was something I just became really passionate about. I thought, this is different. This has more potential than some of the other stuff I've written. And so I spent the next year making it better. And I sent out 43 query letters the summer of 2016, and I
Wow.
got all rejections or nothing. And to me, no responses equals a rejection,
Right. Right.
Uh, and so I thought, well, the book must be to blame because, and I did it the old-fashioned way. Didn't know anybody. I don't have friends in the publishing industry. People think, oh, you have to know somebody. I didn't know anybody. And so I spent the next whole year of 2016 and 2017 completely reworking my novel. I read all these books on how to be a better writer and took all of their advice and had a specific prayer session on this book. Felt like God needed to be involved in the whole thing. And right after that, I resubmitted it again to about 30 something more. And then in that fall of 2017, I got an agent. And people want to ask how I got my agent. I just did the writer's market. This is the one I had. And I just, made sure they were accepting manuscripts in my genre because I wouldn't send it to a romance writer,
Right.
romance agent, waste their time.
Sure.
Um, and so I just got my champion. She loved my book and she shopped it. And the wheels in the traditional publishing industry turn really slowly. So you've got to be patient.
Right.
And finally, it was right after my 50th birthday, I got a publishing contract with Lifeway. And
Oh,
so
so
it came out
exciting.
May 12th of 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic.
Wow. Well, that is really exciting. So you would probably suggest to other writers to just keep sending it in, keep working on the writing.
Yes, one of the things I like to do, this is a middle grade fiction, so I've been invited to speak at schools to the middle school students.
Mhm.
And I have made this presentation, and I do a little interactive thing where I have 5 books that I know they know the title of, Harry Potter, Dr. Seuss,
Mhm.
Because of Winn-Dixie, and some others. And then I printed off, numbers of how many rejections each one was given, and I try to have them match up. How many rejections do you think Harry Potter got? And when they hear that Kate DiCamillo got, 400 and something rejections before she was ever published,
Wow.
it inspires them. And she's won the Newbery twice.
Yeah, I love
And
her
so
writing.
my inspiration to them is just keep at it. Dr. Seuss was rejected 27 times. And now, years later, it's those things that we are going to read to our grandkids. His
Right.
books are iconic. So if he'd given up at 26, we wouldn't have Dr. Seuss. And so that's my encouragement, is that persistence is really your friend. And the other thing is being humble enough to say, well, maybe the book's not so good. You know, my book had a boring title and it was third person. And so I found a really intriguing title and made it first person and with a really unique character perspective.
Mhm.
Um, so those two things together, persistence and really making sure that you have a book that's different and really, really, really well done.
So tell me about your title. How did you come up with that
Oh,
title?
okay. The title. There's actually a chapter in the book explaining it, and the main character is a 13-year-old girl and her 10-year-old brother, and they are sort of on a spiritual journey. And the omniscient narrator is the magic book itself, and then they have a butler. He's sort of like a wise guide, and the title talks about the timelessness of God. The children have undergone this tragedy, and it's kind of a spiritual journey for the main character, Piper.
Mhm.
And they're just talking about how God is outside of time. And so, every when is not a word we use very often,
Mhm.
but I liked it. It gave words, you know, it gave a word to something that's a little bit abstract.
Yeah.
And so it's actually about a spiritual journey and just the timelessness of God, him being outside of time and bigger than what we can imagine.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I love the title, and I think it really catches your attention because it's different.
Yeah, I went and spent a lot of time in bookstores looking at titles because, you know, I mean, they do people do judge books by their covers. And so if the title, it used to be Uncle Lonnie's Library, and that's really boring. You know, a child won't think that's interesting.
Uh-huh.
Um, but and so I had a bunch of different titles, and then I finally landed on this one. I thought, oh, that's different, you know,
Yeah.
every win. And some people have a hard time saying the word every win because we don't ever say
Yeah,
it.
it's not
So
easy.
I wanted it to be unique.
Cool. Well, that is so exciting. Um, now I don't know what I wanted to ask next. Oh, do you have any other things you want to tell writers?
um, I guess, you know, believe in yourself. I wish I had started earlier. I really do.
Mm.
I would write something and go, oh, nobody's gonna like this. You know, there was a lot of that self doubt because I think as creative people, we are pretty insecure.
Yeah.
And as I got older, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it and just put it out there because I just wasn't. Not that I wasn't brave enough, but I never made it a priority. I don't know, maybe it was just I thought, okay, this is the idea that's going to finally get me published. But I wish I had started earlier and
Mhm.
spent the time because I feel like if I had been persistent and started earlier, I could have gotten published sooner. Um, but and also surrounding myself, I one of the things when you start having to do your bio, I thought, well, I better join some organizations so I look like I'm professional. So
Yeah.
I joined the local Writers Guild here in the Shoals. It's called the Shoals Writers Guild, and I joined the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. And I joined the Southern Christian Writers Conference and the American Christian Fiction Writers Association.
Yeah.
And you know, some of those there's a charge with it, but I thought it's a good investment in my career if I really want to,
Yeah.
you know, do this big girl job. And um, they have resources. They have writing resources. They have, um, you know, beta reader sort of contact where they say, hey, you read mine, I'll read yours, or critique groups or contests. And
Mhm.
those professional organizations have been great. I've made really good friends with the local Writers Guild folks, and they're just so wonderful. They're like my little cheering section.
Yeah.
um, and we've invited multiple people in the writing industry to come speak to our Writers Guild, and they brought great stuff, you know, certain types of outlines and um, just different perspectives on creativity or over writer's block or different things like that. So I would recommend that if you're really serious about it, join some of these professional associations and take advantage of their resources because they're really they're
Yeah.
worth your time and your money.
Yeah. So do you have a group or a partner, a writing partner where you exchange your writing and you like either critique or just like read for each other and brainstorm, or what?
I
What?
don't have a specific writing partner. One of the things that I did, I do very much recommend using beta readers, but to me, they need to be a stranger, because a friend may not really be able to be objective with you and say,
Right.
this part is really bad, and my parents, my biggest fans, but they're not good beta readers. They caught lots of typos. What's funny is my dad caught one set of typos, my mom caught a different set of typos, and my sister caught a different set of typos. And so
Yeah.
altogether that was helpful. But for actual content, I found it easier to join. There's writers groups all over Facebook, and they'll do a swapsy, say, hey, if you read mine, I'll read yours. And then there's a lot more room for you to be honest and say,
Mhm.
this character development is really shallow, or whatever, And so I don't currently have a writing partner that I do that with right now, because I do, when it comes time to maybe submit my next one or whatever, I do want it to be a stranger so they can really be honest with me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of Facebook groups out there. Even like my genre is middle grade fiction, and there's some that are specifically geared towards that one. So if a writer is romance or sci-fi or speculative, I'm sure there's a group out there somewhere that they could
Yeah.
join.
Are you on the ACFW Facebook one? Is
I
that what
am,
it is?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm not sure. I'm on several of ACFWs on Facebook, but I don't really see them very often. I'm not very good at going on Facebook. I have a lot of friends and liked pages, but
Yeah.
I don't spend a lot of time on there, so I haven't figured out how to make good use of it. Do you have any suggestions for me?
I joined this ACFW. I'm trying to remember which one it is. If it's the ACFW or the SCBWI, the I because a lot of them have sort of area chapters. So the Society for Children's Book Writers and Illustrators is national, and it's thousands of members, but there are local chapters, and from time to time these local chapters will have Zoom meetings, and I joined one last week for one of these local chapter Zoom meetings, and it was great listening to others' perspectives.
Mhm.
They're published authors from traditionally published, and each of us sharing different experiences with I'm trying to remember the topic that we discussed. I don't remember what it was, but I know the information was really valuable. And so when you join those sort of smaller groups, and they have those quarterly or a few times a year, those Zoom meetings, they're really helpful. And then you get to meet people. You sort of
Yeah.
network, and you could find a beta reader to swap your manuscript with in one of
Mhm.
those kind of groups.
Yeah. Now, when you talk about beta readers, do you also get middle grade readers to read yours?
Yes, I knew we had a lot of family and friends in Metro Atlanta where we were when I wrote it, and um, I needed a female, well-read 9 to 12-year-old, and I just happen to know like 10 families that fit, and so I directly approached the student, and I said, "Would you help a wannabe author and read my book for me?" And they were all just super enthusiastic about it. They
Yeah.
all said, "Yes, we will definitely read it," and um, so they gave me their feedback. It was a little bit hard to get the specific feedback I wanted, but what's nice is their parents also read it and gave me lots of feedback.
Mhm.
Um, and so, when I hear they couldn't put it down, when the mom and dad say, "Oh, they read it cover to cover last week and want to know when you're going to write the sequel," that kind of thing. Um, so for the next one, I'm working on a young adult. I'm not sure who I'm going to get to be my beta readers for that, because I know a lot of adults read young adult, but I
Mhm.
would rather have my protagonist is 16. I would rather have someone that age read
Right.
it to see their perspective on it. So um, I'm going to have to, network with my friends and family and see who has a child in that age range
Yeah.
that that would want to read it for me. So
Plus,
I
that
just
age group is so
like it.
busy. It's hard to
I
get.
know. Oh yeah, they're always at homework, practice, rehearsal. You
Right.
name it. They are very, very busy.
Yeah, very busy.
Um, but yes, I think beta readers are really invaluable as far as before you really are getting ready to send it to the agent, to have multiple. And sometimes one person's critique may not really jive with your vision for the book. So I like multiple beta readers to have multiple perspectives on. And
Yeah,
that was
that's
helpful.
really good advice, because we can't just take everything that everybody says.
Right. And if you only have one beta reader, then you're really only seeing it through that one lens, and their perception of your story may be skewed by fill in the blank. Say if you write a specifically Southern book that's all about Southern culture, they may not understand that culture. And so another perspective you would get from a different beta reader.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's so great to talk to you today, and I'm excited for you. When is the sequel? When do you plan to have that out?
Well, I don't have a contract from the publisher yet. They received the sequel in January, and so it's under review right now. And there's a chance they'll reject it, and that they get first rights of refusal. And if the current publisher does not want that sequel, my agent will shop it elsewhere. But some exciting news! I found out that The Edge of Everywhen is being published in Russia. We have an offer for a Russian publication in hardback, so that'll be fun for me to have a hardback copy in Russian on my shelf.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah. But it's all new. I'm new at all of this, so I'm just kind of going with the flow, and
Yeah.
it's very exciting for me.
Yeah, very exciting. Well, I sure hope they take it and keep them together.
Yes, me too.
And I think they probably will, since
I
it's
hope
done
so.
well
Yeah,
and
I hope so.
everything. Yeah. Well, thank you for being on It's About Writing today. And I will attach your links, your website, or wherever they can find the book.
Great. Okay.
And we'll talk to you again soon, hopefully.
Great. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.